This is Ihsancast. This is episode 2 of the first episode that we done, a continuation of it. The title again is Ihsan, the Unspoken Word. As you can see, we're missing a co-host. He's basically been sacked.
After a shocking performance last week.
No, I'm kidding on. Inshallah, he should be with us again next week.
Inshallah.
So, to summarise what we spoke about last week, we basically spoke about Ihsan. Words like perfection came up. Also, other things like, is it natural, is it nurtured? And I think what we all agreed was it is something that is natural, but to allow it to flourish, it is something that has to be nurtured. Other things that we also spoke about were the effects of having a lack of spirituality. So things like people will want to use to regularly achieve that spirituality. They may go to certain other things to maintain that, try to achieve that spirituality. Things like that. We also try to speak about other things such as the most extreme situation where potentially people could become atheists or leave the fold of Islam or think that they've left the fold of Islam. So inshallah, what we will try to speak about today is how and when we have achieved Ihsan and give a few examples. Also, why is having Ihsan so important? And inshallah, we'll try to discuss some practical tips as well between the three of us. Hopefully they'll help you guys.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to today's episode, man. I think after laying out a bit of facts last week, I think today will be practical tips, which we all need. And so one of the things I was thinking was, following on from last week, I was asking if it was nature, it was nurture. You know, we can have Ihsan, that's fine, but you're not going to be in a state of doing a religious act all day, every day. You know, you have to eat your food, you need to go to work, you need to do this, you need to do that. You've got so many other things going on. So how can you maintain spirituality whilst doing everyday acts? You know, have you ever experienced any of this?
So I would say that, first of all, the idea of Ihsan is not just within the physical acts. I think this is the point that we're trying to make with Ihsan, is this idea that we are thinking about God all the time. So it's turning even these little small acts into acts of worship and into acts of being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So simple things that you might think are, you know, not really going to be very important in your life, or things which you just would normally just go through your life, going through the motions, as they say. These would be elements which now you're looking to try and bring Ihsan to.
So would you say it's more than just being thankful then, or is being thankful enough? So say for example, I don't know, you're brushing your teeth, right? And you just say, right, I'm thankful for the fact that I have water or I can afford toothpaste. Is that Ihsan, or is Ihsan something more than that?
Yeah, so then there's levels of Ihsan. So there's the kind of the basic level of being thankful to God, being obedient to God, going above and beyond the basics.
Right.
But then there's levels above that as well.
Okay.
So then there's different stations of which your soul can be in, which you are then connected to God at all times. So that is then not just being in a state of thankfulness, but also understanding where you live in and the blessings of every day. So basic things like how would we know that we've got Ihsan, or how do we know we experience Ihsan, like continuously, would be how many times a day do we think about Allah?
Right.
Not just about being thankful, but how many times a day do we think about God? Like how many of us, even those listening on the podcast, how many of us wake up every day and the first thing we think about is God? Because think about it, if we really want to achieve Ihsan and build that connection with God, the first thing we need to do is think about God.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem to overcome, is this element of even just, before even doing the acts, you have to think. And thinking is a form of doing as well. Like intention is always strong. Yeah, so intention is always stronger than the action. So innamal a'malu binniyat, the famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, you know, actions are based or are judged upon intentions. The intention is the thought. The thought is stronger than the action itself.
So then how do you go about training your thoughts? Because your thoughts happen naturally, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very hard to do that.
So how can you...
Yeah, so this is then where it comes into these spiritual experiences that you then have, which makes you grateful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first of all, that's the kind of bottom level.
Yeah.
And the second level is training your mind to be thankful and be obedient to God at every single moment of the day.
Yeah.
So the best way to do that is to take simple examples that you have,
Yeah.
and then think, okay, what was I feeling at that moment in time, and how can I make sure that I feel that all the time?
Yeah. Because this is where I think, well, for me anyway, the kind of penny dropped was, when you talk about it like a spiritual experience, it seems like it's a big moment. You know what I mean? Like something big's going to happen. It's like a huge moment. Like you need to be sitting down, or you feel this epic sort of, I don't know, like have this epic sort of thought, or enlightenment or something. But it's not actually that. Ihsan is actually
continuous
small things happening all the time to you, and just like remembrance of God. So that is actually Ihsan.
Yeah. It's a continuous struggle against your nafs. I think that's probably the best way to kind of express it. It's a continuous struggle against yourself.
But I think just even understanding that that's what it is. For me, I didn't understand that. I thought it was this massive experience where you feel enlightened.
I thought
the bulb comes on.
And I had that.
The light bulb clicks.
The light bulb clicks. That's like a big moment.
The noor comes off your face.
Because that's what I always thought Ihsan was as well. Where basically you just have, like you said, a moment.
Yeah.
Something amazing happens to you. You just feel as if like you're in the zone. Everything feels great.
And that's it.
Like you're on another level basically.
So what's an example of that then? Tell me an example of these light bulb moments that you're having.
Well, for me, it was when we went to Umrah. So basically during Umrah you did the laughs. To be fair, the first time we went to Umrah, the first time ever looking at the Kaaba Sharif, I never felt spiritual. Like I didn't have that feeling. I had a lot going on in my mind. I kept thinking about what things to do next, what du'as I should be reading. Just a lot of things going on in my mind.
I think it was the first time we've all been.
There's a lot to take in. Even looking at the Kaaba, it's very surreal. So I didn't feel quite spiritual then. It was when basically at the end of leaving Makkah, you have to do the farewell dua where you go around 7 times basically. That's when I felt it. I just thought to myself, I'm going to take a step back, because it gets very rushy, it gets very busy, and it's very hard to stay focused. You just want to get out of the crowd sometimes, or get into the crowd. So I thought to myself, let's take a step back and just take my time and just do du'as that I think are very important to me. And I done that, and you done it with me.
Yeah, I was with you.
And when we started it, the sun was down, and basically as time went on, during every single du'a, because it was after Fajr, the sun was slowly rising.
Yeah.
So by the time it finished,
we started, it was quite dark, and by the time we finished, the sun is
that was some experience, man.
Bright daylight, and I think just adding to that whole sort of thing. But I think what you said there was good, was that you took your time. And I think you can apply that to even the small stuff, because how many things do we do on autopilot?
Yeah.
But really, if you stop and think, right, why am I doing this? How can I achieve doing this small thing? You'll realise, well, it's due to Allah that you can do it. So I think even applying that, even though that's a big moment, you can apply that same sort of things and take it to the practical side. And for me, the first time I sort of realised it out with a religious side was when I was in Turkey. And before the meals, what they would say is a phrase called afiyat olsun, which I think it means something similar to may it be good for you. You know what I mean? As opposed to like bon appetit or enjoy your meal or whatever it is. It says may it be good for you. And I think that's the first thing that kind of struck me. I was like, well, why are they saying that? Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, why should it be good for you? You know what I mean? Like, and then I asked somebody, and they were explaining to me, well, what is the actual reason why do you eat food? You know what I mean? To eat food is not to the core purpose of food is not to enjoy the food, but it's for health. You know what I mean? So may it be good for you, may it help you, may it sustain you, may it give you energy. You know what I mean? And they would like constantly thank Allah as well at the same time. And I was just watching this, I've never ever seen this before. And it made me realise how even eating food, which we all take for granted, you do every day, but it's actually an act of worship if you do it in the right way. So if you eat the right foods, if you eat it in the proper way, if you prepare it the proper way, it's actually an act of worship. And that's when the penny dropped for me. That's what spirituality is, and that's how you can get it in your everyday things. So even just eating food is that. And I think we spoke about it before when it was the German footballer Mesut Özil.
Yeah.
It was, I think he's going through a lot of stuff right now with racism and stuff like that. But he's from Turkey, and even just that sort of attitude towards food, where there was like a piece of bread thrown on the ground, and he picked it up and he kissed it and he put it towards his forehead and put it in a higher place, and just that attitude towards food. So if you talk about how do you achieve Ihsan, well, you need to think about it and have it, like you said, whilst you're doing all your everyday acts.
Yeah, because
That's the first time I seen it and realised it and thought, well, you know, you take food for granted completely, and food's such a great one because everybody needs it, but how many people out there have thought about it as a spiritual act or an act of worship?
Because usually you don't think twice. For me anyway, you don't think twice, you just go straight into it.
Yeah.
You gobble it down and that's it.
Yeah. But like even so, just like taking like what you said, taking a minute before you eat, actually thanking Allah, you're doing a dua or something for this food. But that also comes from other cultures as well. You know, people saying grace and stuff. So it's not as if these are foreign things. People have also done it in previous cultures, and that's what we were saying before. Spirituality is something that all people can achieve.
Yeah.
You know, so that's anything else?
I would say just to finish off on that point, is, that when you were talking about that kind of one of the kind of reminders of Imam al-Ghazali, rahmatullah alayhi, came to my kind of mind. Yeah, absolute the Don Imam Ghazali. So Imam al-Ghazali says, it's a very simple thing which everyone could do in their life is just when you wake up, take 5 minutes to just make your intentions of what you're going to do in that day. Even if you don't do that, but you start the day fresh with a good mind and productive. Are you going to be productive? And the second time is, when you go to sleep, take 5 minutes out of your day, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, and also ask for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the people that you might have upset or the people that you might have done wrong to during that day.
So it's about mind frame, getting it right.
Something as simple as that, just taking 5 minutes out of your day at the beginning, 5 minutes out of your day at the end, it's 10 minutes. And, majority of us are awake for 16 and a half hours.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's 10 minutes out of our day. But how much of an impact would that have if we do that every single day? Our mentality when we wake up totally changes. And our mentality when we go to sleep totally changes as well, because we're thinking about God at the start of the day, and we're thinking about God at the end of the day. And what a state to die in if we died in our sleep, we passed away in our sleep.
Sheikh Imam makes a good point about that. He put up a status, I think it was, on Facebook, and what he mentioned was basically when you wake up in the morning, the first thing we usually do is to look at your emails, look at your WhatsApp, you message somebody, you're on your Facebook. Notifications. So that's the first thing you naturally do when you wake up in the morning. You're looking at these kind of words, whereas what he said was it might even be a better idea to have like the Quran app. First thing you do when you wake up is you look at a verse, you read a verse or something, because the first thing your eyes look at when you wake up in the morning, imagine that being the words of God, basically.
It's the small habits that Now it's interesting, just picking up on your point, there's a lot of people now doing like research and stuff, non-Muslims, who are saying the first thing to do when you start your day, wake up, write 3 things you're grateful for, or write 3 things that you want to achieve. And it comes into what you're saying. It's the same as making intentions or being thankful or being grateful. So people are now realising the need, and it comes into a kind of mental health as well, and clear your head. So people are now realising these things.
These self-help books.
But they're already there. You know what I mean? They're already in the Quran already. You know what I mean? So it's just a case of then how can we put it into a way that people realise that it's in the Quran already. You know what I mean? How do we go about that? How can it benefit us on a day-to-day basis? Doing these, you're saying change your ways, do these small things, but what benefit are people going to see? Say people start doing that half an hour, 5 minutes into the day, 5 minutes start of the day, they're not really seeing any benefit. Or what kind of benefits could they expect to see?
So benefits, this is the thing about, this classic case of old habits die hard, is the first few times you do it, you'll feel brilliant, you'll feel very, very good. And then afterwards, you won't feel much, and you'll start to kind of fade away.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm talking about, that dip that you get.
This dip is actually the hurdle that you need to get past to realise the end goal.
Okay.
So what happens is, if you're making this intention, first 2 or 3 days, or let's just use this basic example of the Quran app. Okay, you open the app of the Quran. You read a page before you go to sleep and when you wake up. Every day for 2 or 3 days, and subhanAllah, this is really benefiting me. After about 3 or 4 days, you think, I've got 57 people that have, 57 messages to look at,
Or
a number of
this guy, popular guy, 57 minutes.
number of emails, right, or whatever. Nowadays, that's nothing in it. The amount of contacts.
It's not nothing
people
for me.
have-
I don't know about you.
The amount of contact that people have that are younger than us, they've got way
Right.
more than us. So for them, like for instance, it's really enticing just to go back into your old ways. Because you're like, well, I'm not, it was good for the first couple of days, but I'm not really feeling anything much now.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's you not realising the full benefit of it. You only realise the full benefit of something over a long sustained period of time. That's when you realise the full value of something. And that's been proven over time constantly. Like for instance, this idea of the 10,000 hour rule. You practice something with 10,000 hours, you basically become a master at it.
10,000 hours.
10,000 hours,
Yeah.
right? Now, how many
You should
people...
be a master at TV then.
Yeah. So, how many people will get to that? Will get to those 10,000 hours to realise the end goal of mastering a specific subject or mastering a specific sport?
Yeah.
Very, very few people.
True.
But the perseverance of what it takes, there's an end goal, and that end goal is brilliant. You know, that end goal is for you is an achievement which very, very few people will achieve. But it's amazing when you achieve it. So that kind of, and that is what ihsan is. It's not for that type of ihsan where you're continuously feeling close to God. It's not going to be. It's not something that we'll see happen to absolutely everyone. But it's not because it's something extremely hard to do. You have to go out into the desert and not eat for 50 days and do all of
Well, I
these
think
kind of
genuinely,
things.
but I think that's what people think you need to do.
It's not, it's
to achieve
perseverance.
things.
It's simple as this,
Yeah.
perseverance.
Well, that's what I was trying to say before, you know what I mean? It's this doing a huge act and this big build up, and then you have this huge enlightenment.
Yeah.
But that's not what the essence of what
Yeah.
ihsan is.
And the reason why the essence of ihsan isn't that is because if you don't feel anything at that point, then you feel disheartened.
Yeah.
You see, that's the point. Is just that. So what you said is just that when you saw the Kaaba, and the first time you were like, you couldn't really take it all in, and it was only when you experienced it more and more over time
Yeah.
that you really felt the benefit of it.
Definitely.
That's
So
the same, yeah.
it's about experiencing things over a long period of time. So whatever we do over a long period of time. This is why, like in Tasawwuf, you have like tariqas and things like that, and they will always tell the people who join these kind of groups, these Sufi groups, they'll always tell them to read something every day, but do it continuously. For the rest of your life now, you've got to make this a part of your routine.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that perseverance is what is a tried and tested method of you getting close to God.
Yeah, I think it's the same with most things. Doing
So-
something small continuously is better than doing something big
Yeah.
once.
So that's what you would say, do small things continuously and persevere even when you feel a spiritual low.
Yeah.
Just continue to persevere basically.
So something that you just said, you spoke about a few things, but one question that just came to my mind there. So what kind of characteristics do you require to start working towards gaining ihsan or spirituality? What do you mean now?
Nothing. There's no specific type of person. Ihsan this is the beauty of Islam, is that it's a religion that's open for everyone. You could be a drug dealer, you could be a murderer, you could be whatever, but there's always a way to turn back to God. That's the thing, the door to Allah is always open.
Yeah.
It's always open. You could be an atheist who once hated God and you turn into a very pious person.
Yeah.
In Islam, that door is always open to you, and the Prophet ﷺ made that clear, being a prophet of mercy, being a prophet of rahmah, that, even, to the point where even the polytheists who, really abused the Prophet ﷺ, when he went back into Makkah towards the end of his life to complete the Hajj, they were the same people who thought, what's the messenger of God going to do with us? Like, he's brought 120,000 people to come and do the Hajj. What do you think he's going to do with us? And he said, I want nothing but the best for you. So accept Islam and your previous sins will be forgiven.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it's for everyone.
Yeah.
This idea is for absolutely everyone to come back into Islam, to feel the spiritual benefits and to really embrace the real message of Islam.
Yeah.
That's quite good to know, because I think for people what can happen is they can go down a dark path for
Yeah.
a long time, and all they really hear is the punishment, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you'll go to the hellfire, and that just puts them off,
Yeah.
and they feel as if there's no hope for them basically. So to know that there is that kind of that hope.
And that's where rules and guidelines are not enough, because if you have rules, that's the consequence, rules, consequence. But spirituality is like the reward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the higher meaning of
What's
it?
the higher meaning?
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I think that's something that really drew me towards Ihsan, is that you don't have to be a particular way. You could look like anyone, like a nobody on the outside, but on the inside you could have spiritual near perfection almost. Whereas some people look the part, but the inside they might not even know what Ihsan is, they just look the part, you know what I mean? So that's the beauty of Ihsan, that's where the lack of judgment comes in Islam. You can't judge anybody, shouldn't judge anyone.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of the things that is actually Nav that always speaks about it, and I think he asked a couple of times as well, is that when you look at the generation or a couple of generations before us, it doesn't look like from the outside that they have much Ihsan or they know about Ihsan really, or it's not quite apparent to us. So is it a case that Ihsan is that we have it more, or did they not have it, or did they have it and we don't understand it? Or
I remember his point. I think what he was trying to find out was, see, basically from the outside it looks as if they didn't have Ihsan. So without Ihsan, so Islam and what was the other one? Iman, right? Having the two of them, right? Can you get, or can you basically live a life like that where you don't have a lot of Ihsan, and are those two enough?
Yeah, so the thing is, I think the question is phrased in a way which would suggest that they don't have Ihsan, but going back to this idea of what you've got to remember is their life was a lot simpler than ours. So their idea of Ihsan would be thanking God for the food that they had, not because of what we think, because it's just something which is a natural practice. We don't have to think, or we didn't have to go out there and fight just to put food on our table. Yeah, they had to work 14, 16 hours a day to put food on their table.
Right.
So they were thankful to God at every moment.
Yeah.
Like, these simple things is what made them thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was their form of ihsan. Their form of ihsan was like, alhamdulillah, we've got a halal butchers. Like, we look at it and we think, oh man, yeah, how many have we got? And they would be, this is such a blessing for us.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, it's amazing. Or a new mosque has opened. That means that I don't need to pray we don't need to pray our Jummah in the back of an old factory anymore.
Yeah.
We've actually got a wudu area.
Yeah.
Subhanallah, that's amazing. And now we're like, let's build an extension. How big should our dome be? We've got so many mosques, and it's the opposite. We've got so many mosques and no one's filling them.
Yeah.
So our priorities are more different, basically.
Yeah. So because of our priorities, because of what we think is important, is what is different from what they thought was important.
Yeah.
That's actually what the differentiation is. It's not in terms of their feelings.
Right. Okay. So they did have it. So what about then practical tips then? Because we spoke a little bit what is Ihsan and where does it come from and do we have it or not? Okay, religious or everyday acts, we can get it from everything, but what kind of practical tips could you, or do you both have, that how do we go about achieving it then, practically?
So that was one of the ones that I mentioned earlier on, the one that Sheikh Amar had spoke about, where basically when you wake up in the morning, maybe look at a few verses of the Quran, even before going to bed at night, just pausing for a moment and reflecting on the day. Think about the blessings that you've had, think about things that you're grateful for, things that you can thank God for.
So it seems to me that Ihsan is really tied a lot to what people are talking about mental health these days. It seems to be a clear link, for me anyway, between the two. When I think people talk about being reflective, being thankful, being grateful, these are all things people are talking about more and more regularly.
So these are two, what I would say, universal truths within Islam. So we have mercy, rahmah being one, and the nafs being the other. So Imam Malik mentions in terms of tasawwuf, which is ihsan, tazkiyah, that you can't have the sharia without having tasawwuf. It's incomplete, basically. And
What is tasawwuf?
so tasawwuf is just ihsan, spirituality.
Right, okay.
It's not a
That's
word for
another
it.
word.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a synonym for it. That's all it is.
Synonym,
Yeah.
Fancy word.
So the first point is like within the Quran you have these general themes which, what we're talking about generations, cross generations.
Okay.
So they go above and beyond just generational gaps.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is like mercy, rahmah, which we'll cover slightly to do with mental health as well. And there's a famous story which probably the best story to talk about, one of the best stories anyway that comes to my mind, is the story of Bishr al Hafi, rahmatullah alayhi. Now Bishr al Hafi, by his own admission, one of the narrations in which he became very pious was that he used to drink a lot of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where scholars, he said himself that, he wouldn't be able to stand straight, he'd have to lean on things because he was that drunk. Yeah. So he enjoyed his drink basically. But one day he was walking in the marketplace and he sees a parchment. Some scholars say it was a parchment that had the Quran written on it, others say that it was just that had the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on it. So he thought to himself, I can't leave this parchment that has the name of God on it on the floor for people to trample over it. So he picked it up and he went to the local perfume seller, and whatever money he had in his pocket, he gave that and said, get me the best perfume that you've got, just enough to cover this parchment, and that's all. So he's fragrancing the name of Allah. So then he goes home and he puts in a high place in his house and he goes to sleep that night. And then a voice in his dream, a voice comes to him and says, you have perfumed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name in this world. Now Allah will fragrance your name in this world and in the akhirah. And he becomes one of the greatest awliya. He's from the Salaf as well.
So was that after?
Yes, so after that,
Right, okay.
totally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the doors, lifts the veils from his eyes, and he becomes one of the most pious people. To the point where, this was incredible when I read it, but the great Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, one of the greatest scholars of our time, Imam Ahmad, used to go to Bishr al Hafi and ask him for advice.
Really? Wow.
Used to go to a man who used to be a drunkard,
Yeah.
and Bishr al Hafi used to be sitting there, and Imam Ahmad would come to him, would ask him, how do I, these points, how do I get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I'm a man who's mastered Sharia, but how do I get close to God?
It's amazing.
Showing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do anything for anyone at any point and can change the circumstance at any time. That's one point, the idea of mental health, of, knocking someone when they're down. You don't know what that person will become.
It's just
You
a
don't
lack of
know what
judgment,
Allah will have for that person.
Yeah.
And then the second point is this idea of the nafs. And this is kind of crucial and the crux of kind of ihsan.
So just before you start, whenever I think of the nafs, I always think of it as like an ulterior person that you've got, as if you've got two people going. I always think my nafs is someone who's trying to get me down, but I think of it as a person. I don't know if anyone else thinks that.
That's a good
I always
analogy.
think of it as a person that's always trying to make me do like evil things, you know what I mean? I need to keep fighting it off.
That's a good analogy to use.
I don't know if anyone else thinks that.
Does it look like
I think it's maybe just you.
Have you ever seen that? You ever seen the film Fight Club?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about like that.
He's like got insomnia or something. That's his problem. Isn't it?
That's what that's
Yeah, that's a good film by the way. That's a really good film by Brad Pitt.
Maybe he's the nuts.
Not that we're encouraging it.
That's true.
But so the nafs, this idea, Baba Bulle Shah, you guys know I love Punjabi poetry.
Yeah.
He says Bulliya, so he's speaking to himself and he says, oh Bulle Shah, the buck stops here, the end of this sentence is this, that you will not achieve spiritualness, or you will not achieve what you want to achieve through religion before you take the I from without yourself.
Right.
So as soon as this idea of selfishness,
Right.
if you do not eliminate this idea of selfishness from you, you will never really achieve what you wanted to achieve from religion. And Imam al-Buti, the great Shaheed, Imam Muhammad Sa'id Ramadan al-Buti, he gives a brilliant analogy for this.
Yeah.
And he says, think about this, and it goes back to what I was talking about long term. He says you've got two trees. And he says you've got one tree which is created in such a way which is tall and it's long and it grows and it grows and it grows. Okay? And it stands proud of its height. Yeah? And you've got another tree which is smaller. And what will happen is that some of its branches will be misshaped and some of the branches might fall off.
Yeah.
Okay? But that tree might get pecked at, the seeds of the tree might get pecked at because the birds can reach it because it's lower down. So it'll go through immense hardship. But that tree bears fruit. That tree bears fruit, something which that tall. Have you ever seen a tall, really, really tall tree? It doesn't bear any fruit.
Yeah.
It's these small trees that bear fruit.
Yeah, interesting.
And they go through that struggle and that difficulty.
Yeah.
But what is the end goal? That sweet fruit that they bring.
Yeah.
And they bring benefit to people all around them.
Yeah.
Even though they've sacrificed
Yeah.
themselves. The tree is in difficulty, it's been pecked at, some of its branches might get ripped off. You or me might come along and just shake the tree to get some apples off it.
Try and climb it.
Try and climb it and knock some branches off it, etc. Yeah, but it benefits everyone around it.
Yeah.
And it survives.
Yeah.
It lives on. It lives on through that. It's got an end goal, it's got an end purpose, which is much greater than the one that just stands up tall.
So amazing, because that's essentially Ihsan doesn't come without struggle, then, is what you're saying. Really, you need to struggle to get it and be consistent in what we're trying to get.
Nice fitting.
Like next time then, I think, how can we put Ihsan, right, okay, we can understand it as Muslims, you know what I mean, it's there, it's spoken about. And if we're saying that rules and regulations, Iman and Islam are not enough, okay, then how can you talk about Ihsan to non-Muslims? What do we think about that, or is that for next time, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a whole topic in itself, because it's a very important topic, because we live in the West and our job here, one of our main jobs is, to give dawah to people and to convey the message of Islam. So I think it's only fair if we do give a whole discussion revolving around that.
That's fair.
And inshallah, hopefully, maybe we'll have our... you never know, we may have a new appointment.
A new appointment, or somebody's going to have
Old flame might come back.
You may make it return.
Yeah.
So to conclude, today what we spoke about was Ihsan, how to basically achieve it. Wee small things to do here and there. Also what we spoke about was what Ihsan actually is. Is it something that is what makes you selfless? Also Hassan Sharif also mentioned just a few quotes on that to help us achieve it. And yeah, so inshallah next week what we'll try to discuss would be, I'm not really sure what next week
Dawah.
Giving dawah, yeah.
How to explain spirituality, I think.
Inshallah.
To Muslims and non-Muslims,
Yeah.
that'll be the best.
Yeah. So let's open up then, Muslims and non-Muslims.
Yeah,
so that'll be next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.